Hello and welcome to the Hollywood podcast. I'm your host, Holly, and I have a wonderful guest with me, Angel Lynn. And we're going to talk about all the goodies, including her book, her work, and Yin On Fire, because she is the CEO, founder, creator of Yin On Fire. She's also an amazing author and health worker, coaching. And I just love you. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I've got to experience your work, I've been in your presence. And yeah, with that said, what else do you want to say about yourself? Do you have other titles you want to throw in there? Mother, unicorn, all, what else do you want to
All
say?
the things. I am a divine being of light, like each one of you and your listeners. And it took me little more than 38 years to discover who I am, what I am, and to be able to say that clearly. I used to introduce myself as I'm a mother of 5 sons. I'm a homeschooling mom. I'm
Mhm.
in a blended family with 3 bonus daughters. I graduated with a master's degree in clinical social work. I used to label that because I was in the ego form of me as a doer,
Yeah,
believing that all that I did, all that I achieved pointed to my worth and value, that it was where I gained worth and value. That's where I proved that I was good and that I was honest and that I was hardworking. And so
I know
everything
that
about
game.
me was tied to that, the identity of my achievements. And no longer is that the case. But I will say professionally, I'm a born again
Hey.
non-therapist.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. I was like, you come from therapy, you know all the things, but now you're like a coach and
A
you have,
soul mentor.
oh,
Yeah, so I fall
yes.
under the life coaching umbrella, but as I was peeling away ego identities, like labels, I started listening to every word. And we'll get into that. Every thought I have, but every word that I used. And so when I was in 2019 hired at a counseling clinic here in southern Utah, and they wanted to put my title on the door, and I
Mhm.
was like, well, I'm not going for that license. I don't want to be a clinical therapist anymore. It doesn't fit. And they said, yeah, life coach. We're so glad we hired you to be a life coach. And I just looked at it and I was like, Angel Lynn, life coach. And it just didn't fit. So I paused and I went inward and upward. That's what I call it. When I go into myself, like I didn't go to
Yeah, that's a
Wikipedia.
great
What am
tool.
I? I didn't go to my
Hmm.
colleagues. What should I call myself? I didn't go to a
Tune
guru
in.
or, yeah, it's like
Get
turning
inside.
inward and
Love
then
it.
going upward, knowing there's a greater source of light and truth. So I just ask, and what truly would depict, what words depict what I am? And it just showed up, soul mentor. And it was
Mm,
clear why, because I guide people home to their own soul so they can source answers of truth from within. And I just
that's important
facilitate
work. Yeah.
facilitate the understanding of how to get there, because we have to clear the cobwebs and dust stuff off and move the pollution, the fog and all the pollution that is in our way, all the beliefs, thoughts, expectations, and values that get in the way because they're from programming and conditioning of external voices of authority, and they get in the way of us even knowing what it means to tap in and talk to our inner self, ask questions, and source truth. Like most of us don't feel that.
Right.
um
Most of us are looking outside for this authority to tell us how it is, what's going to keep us safe. It's like this fear-based need to, okay, someone tell me how to do it because I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to like all this fear. And so I got the opportunity to work with you to see the beautiful work that you do. And this, like you said, turning in and upwards, a lot of it too was realignment with who I am and like getting in touch with this is I guess I want to say story, but like this is
yes,
me, and I don't need
yes.
to look outside or in the past or projecting into the future about who I am or what I be. And it's not about production. Anyway, I'm like, I love your work. The other thing I love that you're saying is soul, because it reminds me of your book title. Can you share that
Mm.
with us?
Soul, yes, is in my book title. So it's called Soul-U-Lar Evolution, a Mormon woman's transcendent journey to love. And it's spelled Soul hyphen U hyphen LAR, Soul-U-Lar. And
Soul
that
you
title
lar.
came to me back in 2017. I was actually
Oh,
reading a
nice.
phenomenal book called The God Seat by M. Catherine Thomas. And it's
I
a
have that
book
one.
about the 5 stages of spiritual growth.
Yes.
It's so good. And it was my second time reading the book. I had found it years earlier and it was so deep that I had only
Shoot me
taken
that
it in
again.
chunks at a time, right? In
Got see, writing it down.
2017, I'm just cruising through it, and every section where she's like, here's like the beginning phase of spiritual development. And she says 25% of the population stay in
Hmm.
that mindset. I remember that figure sticking with me and like, holy cow, like from my upbringing, I was raised LDS. hence the title, A Mormon Woman's Transcendent Journey to Love. But I was like, if 25% of us, that's a quarter of us, even as adults, we stay in the primary kids age
Yeah.
mentality of spiritual growth. That's what she's saying
Mm.
in the book.
Yeah.
So I'm going through her book and I'm just noting dates like this happened at this time in my life and I transcended to this level. I could see as she
Ooh,
described the phases and what they entail, what they feel like, how you think, how you operate, these 5 stages of spiritual growth. And so I'm just putting date after date after date. And then I was like, what is happening to me? And I took it inward and upward. What am I noticing?
I
And
love
the
that.
title of this book, it came to me in a visual. It said, you
Ooh.
are experiencing cellular evolution. And it was hyphenated
Ooh.
and written out. I was like, I've never seen those words.
Right.
And I was like, cool, this is cellular evolution. And then the next thought was, one day you'll write a book about it.
What'd you think of that?
Okay.
2017. What'd you think? Oh, okay. That
2017,
sounds like you.
I was I was
You're like,
I was
all right.
1.5 years into trusting the spirit with my whole
Oh,
being. So it was like,
oh,
okay,
all right.
okay,
Yeah. What
we'll
next?
see. And here it
Next step.
is. And yeah. And without pressure, just learning to breathe and receive revelation like that without fear. And one of the
Mm,
biggest pivots in my life is I stopped taking impressions and going, okay, I got this. Now I'm going to do it. And then
yeah.
forcing my way into it. So
Yeah.
I used to get impressions about things, how to serve better, how to teach my kids as I'm homeschooling them. And as soon as I'd have an idea, I would took control of it. Oh, of
Mm,
course that's my idea. Like I can see all my talents and my abilities and my interests. I'd be perfect for that. I'm going to do it this way and this way and this way. And then time would
the
go by and
plan. Yeah.
I create a plan and I didn't
Yeah.
know this
Constructs and
word at the
templates.
time. I would force it. I was in
Hmm.
the energy of force, very
Mm,
masculine energy.
yeah.
Task. I will make things happen was my motto for years. I make
Right.
things happen.
I'm a
Hello.
doer. I make it.
And then I get so far into the project, the calling, the role, whatever I was doing, and then feeling like, God, where are you? Like things did not work out the way that I thought. It
Yeah.
kind
You're
of
like,
fell apart or fizzled, or I'm totally drained, or I'm here with so much resentment as the only
mm,
one that's working on it. And in this period of about 2016, Spirit showed me my habit. It was like, Angel, you look at Revelation like you're on a relay team with Jesus. So this vision,
nice.
it was a vision. It came to me and
Yeah.
I thought about 5th grade track meets. I could see it. You're
Yeah.
out there on the track meet waiting for your teammate to run around the corner and hand you the
You're like, I
baton.
got this.
Yeah. And so I
I'll
see
take
in
it
this
on, Jesus.
vision, I see Jesus coming. I'm like, Jesus, I'm here. I got you.
Yeah.
Like,
Give me.
you tell me what I'm supposed to do. And so as the baton comes, I just grab it. And that's the inspiration. That's the here's what I want you to do, Angel, or here's what's present. And
Oh
I,
my
in the
gosh.
vision, what happened is I grabbed it and I took off running and I ran off the track and down the grass hill and out the gates of the stadium and down a
Hey,
neighborhood into a subdivision and then slowed down and looked around like, wait a minute, where did everybody go? I mean, that is the
nice.
feeling in my life that I kept coming to these things where I'm like, oh, this is what it means. If I build this business, like I'm gonna be able to retire. If I do
Mm,
this blog, I'm gonna,
a lot of
you know,
expectations and
all of these
presumptions.
things. Yeah,
Yeah, like
always
this
focus
is,
on the
I did
results.
this. This is gonna, oh yeah, well said. The results. Like this is gonna happen.
Yes,
I know it.
this is what it
Projections into the
means. Like
future.
it was kind of like a choose your own ending book in my
Ah,
own head.
I used to love
Like
those.
yeah, like, oh, that's what you want me to do. I would make up my own ending. And what the spirit showed me in this vision, I was like, hey, what's happening? What do you want me to do? And the spirit was like, don't pull the baton away from me. When
Mm,
inspiration comes, just join me and stay right by my side. And so
mm.
I was like, oh, so constantly checking in. So that's how I pivoted, is like I learned like ideas would come and I'd be like, what is that? Like the idea, you'll write a book about it one day. Instead of like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to write a book since 6th grade. I wanted to be an author. Of course I will. I
Right.
was like, I just take it like this with a breath. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open. Show me what that looks like. So follow up questions.
That's good.
And one of my favorites is, what more is there? I turn to the spirit and I'll say, what more is there? And it's
Mm,
so humbling and it shows that divine, I am ready and I'm here to be taught, not take over, not make
nice.
it mine, but just like guide me, use me, channel through me.
I
And
love
that,
that. Is that concept kind of in your book for some like maybe A-type
yes.
personalities where like take charge, put it in a construct and it'll work
Oh,
perfectly. So you like
all of my
work through that in
A-type
the book.
friends, yeah,
They
you're
love
gonna
it.
get it. Yeah.
Mm, okay, good.
Everyone who's ambitious, like I was, that's my,
Ah, that's good. I'm like, wait,
that's
you
my
said that
word.
wrong. Ambitious.
Ambitious.
Yeah, there was this
Hustlers.
idea that we had to be that way, and that's really fallen apart. And wherever it was upheld, I was upholding it one time, right? We don't have
Sure.
to be ambitious. We can be
Mhm.
ambitious
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
sh instead of a t.
But yeah, we can be in flow and actually
Yeah.
balance the feminine and masculine energy in us. I was so highly masculine and had no idea that I was emasculating my husband, my former husband. I didn't
Yeah.
know what that meant, but I was living in constant resentment of him and frustration and feeling like I had to do it all. I had to even help with our finances, and that was supposed to be his stewardship. And so my
Right.
book is half memoir, half self-help. So it
Ooh.
begins giving the background on what a doer I was. I had an addiction to doing.
That
And
because
it
it
was,
proves your self-worth, right? I mean, over
yeah.
here, that's what I would feel, like, well, if I did all the dishes, if I made the meal, if I took the kids here, da, 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 da. I mean, I still kind of do it, but it's
For
like
sure.
that's not where the true energy lies. Like we're not getting stuff out of it. That's depleting.
Yeah. And there's so much self-deception that goes into that too, because we're doing what we think others want us to do or expect, or what makes a good woman, wife, mom, whatever.
Yeah.
We think that's what we're doing, but the red flags that we're not in alignment with truth are physical fatigue and health problems.
Mm.
Your body's a vessel of truth, and when it's not well, it's telling you you're not
Yeah,
living
that truth comes
aligned to
out.
truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Here's
tons
the
of
message.
autoimmune issues that women have, and
Yeah.
depression and anxiety, weight, a lot of that. It's just waving these red flags. Hello, wake up. These alarm
Hmm.
clocks are going off. Like, you are not living with truth, in alignment with truth. You're living in alignment. And a therapist helped me see this. He actually said, Angel, you live in self betrayal. And it pissed me off. I was like,
Yeah, that's an
because
ouch.
self betrayal sounded like a manipulative kind of betrayal. It just sounded like
Betrayal's a
someone who
harsh word.
lies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Stabbing in
kind
the
of sat
back.
back and I was like, betray self. I do not betray myself or anyone. I have more integrity than anyone I know. I can even tell you, integrity is having the moral courage to make my actions consistent with my knowledge of right and
Ooh,
wrong. I
I
had
get the
that memorized
definition.
since I was 17 from
Yeah.
my young woman days. Like, I
Hey,
literally
yeah.
say that to him, and he grins at me and he goes, "Who or what are you living in integrity to?" And that was an awakening.
That's
I
a
was
great
living in
question.
integrity to all of the programs that were set up
Right?
for me.
Socially, religiously,
Yeah,
family, United States, wherever
the
those
layers.
constructs
Yes.
lay. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
the wife role, the mother role. Because I mean, I'm doing that all the time. So I'm loving that this kind of juicy stuff is in your book. I'm excited. So
So good.
memoirs for the first half, and then
Yes. And it
what's
starts with me getting a phone call that there was a warrant out for my husband's arrest. I'll just drop that part in there. So here we are living
okay.
this religiously picture perfect. I mean, people are like, you have a perfect
Oh,
family. He's an
yeah.
ecclesiastical leader. You lead the
Oh,
women's group. You're
hmm,
president of this
really looking
organization.
good.
You have 5 kids that know the scriptures. They stand up and they give talks and
Oh man, we
testimonies.
all wanted to be you.
Oh,
We
yeah.
thought, we thought.
Yeah. We thought till we didn't. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was the life. And then all of a sudden this shock of like, what? Wait, what's
Warren
going
out.
on? And
That's
in that moment,
kind of
I
hilarious.
mean,
Is it funny now? Sorry. I'm like,
it's
that's funny,
it's
but okay, cool.
hilarious.
That's
It's
crazy.
hilarious because it's like if you spent a lot of time painting a picture, if you're an
Mm,
artist and you've worked on this masterpiece, just
mhm.
imagine you got your canvas, you've been working on it for years. And then one of your kids walks in and just throws a bunch of mud at it.
Ugh,
And you're just like, you've ruined my master. I mean, I
years
felt like
of
my goals
work.
were ruined, my plans were ruined. I had
Yeah,
given blood, sweat, and tears
that's a
for
paradigm
14
shift.
years
Oh my
to
gosh.
something that now like had no foundation. It's like, this is all built on lies. We're not really on
Oh,
the same team. We're not even working in the same direction. What? So in that
wow.
moment, psychologically, it's called an existential crisis. And it's
Mm,
when things are unraveling so fast, you feel
yep.
like you don't have footing, because all
I
of my
have been through
beliefs were
that.
tied, yeah, to like, you're supposed to trust and honor and love your husband, listen to
Mhm.
his counsel, like just so many different things. And now I had nothing. So I walked into my
Yeah.
bedroom.
Foundation gone.
Yeah, I'm like, who do I talk to now? Because if I can't trust him and he's the closest person to me, I'm like, I had a
Yeah.
void. I don't believe
Oh,
I could turn to another mortal and trust their opinion. If I turn to my
yeah.
friends, they're going to want to crucify my husband. If I turn to my
Ah,
parents,
yeah. Same deal.
they're they're gonna, yeah, they're gonna be so pissed. And I just was like, I'm gonna go in my room and I'm just gonna say this: God, if there is a God. That's where I had to start, because everything felt obliterated.
Yeah, because some of your foundation was built upon your relationship with your spouse and that connected to God. Because for me, like a lot of my relationship to God connected to my spouse as well. Like
Yeah.
that would be so, yeah, shifty, very
So
crumbly.
then I said, what do I do now? And the now was actually in the pending moment because I get this phone call and we were operating a commercial shuttle business. And he and I were taking turns all day long, taking trips of passengers from Southern Utah to the Vegas airport. So
Oh,
we had
wow.
this business, and I'm like, if there's a warrant out for his arrest, I can't let him drive the shuttle. If he gets pulled over for a traffic violation, he's going to get
Your whole
cuffed right there
business.
in front. The business is going to
Yeah.
drop. So I have all this pressure, and I'm like, what? Okay, God, if there is a God, what
Yeah.
do I do now? And the first thought that came to my mind was put chicken in the crock pot.
Okay.
Now, would that be anything along the lines of what you would expect?
I'd be like, but like, is my husband gonna get arrested? Is my
Uh-huh.
family falling apart?
How am I
You're
going to
telling me
provide?
chicken. Hmm.
What if he goes to
Okay.
jail? What does this
Yeah.
mean for us? All the things.
Jeez. Yeah.
How do I live with a husband in jail? Like it was so weird and new. But
Yeah.
in that moment, I recognized it was Angel, you just asked God if there is a God. You were seeking an
Mm.
answer. If you are going to turn your back and be like, that's a weird thought,
I know.
that
Yeah.
doesn't
Not good
make
enough.
sense.
Tell me something
Yeah.
glorious to do where I
Tell
go
me
to the police
something
and turn
life
him in or
altering.
something. Yeah.
It was so instantly poignant that
Yeah.
either you trust or you don't. There's no in between, Angel. You're either listening and trusting or you don't. And I was just like, oh, what if I trusted this? And then my whole past was revealed to me, how many times I had gone in prayer to God, praying in a vain repetition that I was taught,
Yeah.
praying in rote
Yeah.
ways, but
Yeah.
asking for answers and then
Mhm.
dismissing systematically. I could see and recall times where I dismissed the first thoughts and was like, oh, I'm distracted. Oh, that doesn't
Oh,
make sense. And it
isn't
was the
that the truth?
revelation because
Yeah.
it didn't make sense to my mind. And when I processed
Yeah.
this, the
We
spirit
always
said
kind of
to me,
distrust. I'm sorry. Continue.
you know, well, when I was processing this, the spirit said, God's thoughts are not your thoughts, Angel. Don't ever expect the answer to make sense to you. If you already
Love
knew
that.
it or it made sense, you
You would
wouldn't
have
need a
done it,
God.
right? Oh, nice. Yeah.
You wouldn't. If it makes sense to your mortal mind, it doesn't, you're asking for higher, powerful wisdom
Yeah. The
to come
bigger
in. It's not ever
view.
going to make sense. So
Yeah.
that was like, oh, wow.
Yeah. I
So
love that it was
also,
like a next step too. It was just like logistically do
it
that.
made so much
You're like,
sense.
oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and I don't want to forget that I'll talk about that next step too. And but in that moment, here's looking back on all these times when I had dismissed inspiration because it
Mm,
didn't make sense. And then
right.
guess what the pattern is? Because this is not just me, I see it everywhere.
Oh, for sure.
You you dismiss the first random thought that comes, that couldn't be from God. That doesn't make sense. Let me go back and keep praying for what I want to hear. That's what we
Right.
do.
Expectation. It just needs to come
Okay.
in like this. It needs to be these categories. It
I
can't be
expect it
go
to be
get your
this
nose pierced,
way.
Holly, because that would be
Yeah,
dumb.
that would be dumb. No one would do that. But
Yeah.
guess what happens when we just hit this emptiness? Here's what we culturally do in my culture, in my religious upbringing. Two things. I'm not getting an answer. I guess
Mhm.
I'm not worthy enough. I'm going to go
Ooh,
to the temple. I'm going to pray
the
more. I'm going to
shame,
read
the
my
guilt.
scriptures.
Hmm.
It must be a worthiness thing. I'm going to
It
pay
makes
my
me wrong.
tithing.
Oh,
So we go and work harder at doing because we're not
yeah.
getting the answer. Really, we just missed it. We didn't know how to recognize it in our
Receive
bodies.
it. Yeah. It
And
didn't
the
come
other
home.
one, so we go do that. I'll try harder,
The
keep a
doing.
cleaner house, do extra
Read
things
more
at church, serve the
scriptures,
missionaries,
more
dinner,
prayers.
whatever. Yeah, visit, teach, compassionate
Yeah.
service. But then it was like, oh, still not getting an answer. It'll come in God's timing.
Hmm.
That's the cultural ways that I see that we dismiss
That's a great word, dismiss. Yeah.
revelation. We try to do more to be worthy of an answer. And then
Hmm.
when we don't know how to receive it, we say it's in God's timing.
Yeah.
My pivot in this point actually has taught me, and this is since May of 2016, this pattern has not failed me once. Since that time when chicken in the crock pot came to my mind, I processed this. I walked in the kitchen, I put chicken in the crock pot,
I love it.
realizing I'm in shock.
Yeah,
Like,
of course. Yeah.
and so by doing this very
The body gets
simple,
to keep moving.
yeah, daily practical task, I was
Right.
like, oh, and I look over and I have 5 sons that have no idea about the phone call that has come in. They're going to need to eat in 4 hours, and I'm going to need to be driving that shuttle. And I just was like, God, that was the right answer. I couldn't even think of that because my mind was
Shock.
thinking about a life shattering. I have kids that
Yeah.
I need to feed, and if you put it in the crock pot, there will be dinner, and you'll be on
Yes.
your way to Vegas. And so I just went, oh, I'm going to keep turning inward and upward and just like, what's next? And I stopped thinking I knew how I was supposed to handle everything in life
Ooh,
because I kind of
that's good
jumped
for
it off.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Can you
like,
tell me that again? I'm like, that
yeah,
needs to sink
I
in over here.
stopped thinking that I knew how to handle and even do my life because
Okay.
I had been
Yeah,
doing it and
that's
it just
good.
shattered. So I
Right.
decided to ask for wisdom in every step of the way.
Mm.
So every day I would say, what do you want me to do? And when that what showed up, whether it was chicken in a crock pot or go hire this person to drive for you or turn left on Main Street when you think you're headed down bluff, like when I would say, what do you want me to do? The spirit answers right away. Friends, I have
Don't think
never
about it.
waited for an answer. I have
Mm-hmm.
never since 2016 been like, oh, it'll come in God's timing. The moment I realized it comes right away,
I
and
love
the
that.
stretchy part is to receive it and breathe it. I
Yes.
literally take a deep
Receiving.
breath
Yeah.
to breathe and receive the answer and show myself in the spirit. I'm taking it in. I'm
That is a
trusting.
great
I'm having
practice.
faith. I'm bringing it in. And so then it settles and it's like I'm giving
Well,
it
it's
space.
embodying it. It's like you're getting all the aspects. You're spiritually checking in, you're letting the mind kind of meditate and calm down, and then you're using your body with the breath to really bring it in home all the different ways. You have so many great tools today. Thank you.
So many tools, a whole book full of tools, but this is just
Yeah,
the
years of
surface
knowledge.
because when you
Yeah.
breathe it in, you now no longer have space for the energy of fear, guilt,
Panic,
shame, and
frantic.
judgment to
Hmm.
make your decisions. Most of us are living making decisions based on fear, guilt, shame, and judgment. If you start paying attention, it'll knock your socks off.
Right.
Why did I do what I just did? Why did I say what I just did? Why did I commit when it was a full body no, but oh, because I thought I had to? Why did I say this to my kid out of anger? Fear, guilt, shame, and judgment rule our
Yeah.
life. And yet we're religiously, many of us, trying to be these God-fearing people. That doesn't
Hmm.
exist. God is love.
Love it.
They don't
I
coexist
love
in the
it.
same space. So either when you breathe and receive an answer from God, even if it doesn't make sense, the energy of that process moves out the energy of fear, guilt, shame, and judgment. And now there's just
At so
courage
many
and trust.
levels. I love that.
It's so liberating.
Courage and trust. That trust, because that's a step of faith, right? To just be like, I don't know what's best. So let me go in, go up,
Mm-hmm.
and just hear what
And
I hear.
trust.
First thought. So it's funny. This is random, but I had someone ask me yesterday, just out of the blue for me, is like, what color is my aura? And I'm like, orange. First thing I think, but you're wearing orange earrings. So like maybe yellow, orange, something like that. And we take these answers we get from spirit right away and
Yes.
try to fit them in a human box. And it just doesn't need to happen. So I'm like, I thank you for that reminder. And I love that I can tie that in. I don't know. Thanks for letting me
Totally. We
share
we
that.
interpret them. So the mortal mind is
Yes.
always trying to make
Interpreting
sense of stuff, and that's the
meaning.
filter. And
Yes.
when
A
I
filter. So true.
from this situation, just from this one moment and the lightning bolt that struck when I was like, wait, either I received this inspiration or I kicked it out, another part of me realized to try to explain to anyone what was happening to me, these spiritual downloads that were coming every day with every question I asked. Like I was getting mind blowing shifts in my life. I had
Love it.
followed routines and patterns, and everything I asked the spirit was like, go the opposite way, say the opposite thing,
Uh-oh.
do the opposite of what you've been doing. And so it was like, what? But I was just I was
Okay.
practicing listening, and what I realized was that there was a pattern I had been living that I had asked, rejected, doubted,
Mm-hmm.
and talked myself out of. So for
Ah,
many years, that was my prayer process, was to ask a question, reject that first answer,
uh-huh.
doubt that I could really doubt that I was worthy enough, doubt that God would talk to me right away, doubt that I
Yeah.
and then I would be like, should I do what I thought? No, I would talk myself out of that. Now I
Yeah.
pivot and the exact opposite is ask, breathe and receive,
Mm,
trust, then
mm.
act with courage. And that's now how I define faith.
I'm like, write
Faith
that down, everyone. That's good. That's a good process.
It's ask, breathe, and receive, trust, act with courage. That's
Oh
what
my
faith
gosh.
looks like. It's a
Yeah.
process, not a word, not a concept, not a, oh
Not
yeah,
a
I have faith.
instantaneous.
You
Yeah.
can't have faith when everything you're doing is driven by fear. Faith and fear are
Right.
different
They
frequencies.
don't exist together. Yeah.
They don't. So I used to think I was a faithful person, but here I was grabbing that baton in the relay race from Jesus, like, I got
Give me
this.
that. I know what to do here.
I know what to
Let me
do.
take it where it needs to go. You're like, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, you put you off the track. This reminds me, what you're saying reminds me of when I first met you in person. We went to this conference up in Scottsdale, and there was all of us author friends and a lot of other like powerful business women and men and that are in tune because they're cool. No,
Yes.
so many cool people. But we were at this event and we're all in we've got this place together. We're just in a community and we're all heading out to go to the conference. And you're just like, okay, I'll be here. And I'm like, you came all the way down to Scottsdale. You're not going? Okay, all right. And I'm just like, who's this cool lady that's just like, I don't give a what. I don't need to be there. Like, I'm getting fed spiritually. I feel like that was one of a prime example of you just being like, go the opposite way. Not that you had to do it out of rebellion. It was just like,
No,
I'm
no, no.
listening in here. I don't need to be at that to absorb. I need to, and I think at the time you maybe had said like, well, I'm going to go and ponder and do my own things. Like I need some
Right.
me time. And I thought it was beautiful. And the other cool and magical thing about that time was that was like the first time I met you. Well, I mean, first time you started talking about Yin On Fire. Sorry, not the first. Yeah, in person that I met you, but
Yeah.
you were kind of birthing that to us. So I'm like, I don't know if we want to talk about that yet because
Yeah.
you're on a roll with like your book and
Dude.
your work. But do you want
Well,
to jump into that or?
absolutely, because
Okay.
so the book is just my story from 2016 until now. But 1 year ago, when we were all together, I did bring was a first real public announcement that
So
we are going
excited.
to have
We're all at
this
the
festival.
pool.
Yeah, we're all
I was
around the
just waiting.
pool.
You
Like
had this
all,
big idea. I'm like, what's happening? What's going
yeah.
on?
So it's all about based on my experiences. I've actually been meeting people in the last 6, 7 years who are having parallel journeys to mine.
Yeah,
People will
same.
call it waking up or having an awakening or a spiritual awakening or consciousness. So I'd be like, what? You went through that
You
too? And it's
too?
just been this fun gathering because I thought
Right.
I was just going through something really weird. A lot of times it didn't make sense. My
Hmm.
background was as a clinical therapist. So the diagnostic mind would be like, you're schizophrenic, Angel. Who are you talking
Yeah.
to? When you go inward and upward and you're like getting answers, like you kind of, and taking everything
Who are
into
you
account,
talking to?
you're like, who are you talking to?
Parts,
And then
IFS.
so that looks schizophrenic to the world. And then the other was like these spiritual bliss moments that were mind blowing and then swinging
Yeah.
back into depression. I'm like, I think I'm bipolar. And
Yeah.
so, and then it would just be like, Angel, breathe and be present, breathe and be present. And so I
Ride the
started meeting
waves.
people that were having journeys that paralleled mine. And so I could see actually predictable phases of spiritual evolution. So when people are like, I
Mm,
think I'm bipolar, I'm like, hang on.
mm-mm.
No.
Ride this out. Just stick with me. Let's
Yeah,
hold hands.
it's like when a rocket takes off for NASA and it has to have these rocket boosters to thrust away from the gravity of the Earth. And then
Oh,
once
that's
it
good.
launches far enough into the
Yeah.
atmosphere, it drops the rocket boosters and it will go into orbit. And the pull and the magnetism of orbit gets it to circle around. So fear is like gravity. Fear
Mm-hmm.
pulls us back into the earthly mindset, the human programming. So when you're starting to
Yeah,
challenge
survival.
survival mode and stick with the group think mentality and don't break away
Yes.
from
Don't
what
be
you were taught.
ousted.
So
Yeah.
it's
Be
just
part of the
this,
group.
you'll have this shaking, the way a rocket shakes as it tries to pull
Mm,
away. And you'll
from
have a
gravity.
lot of
Fear.
so many experiences trying to pull you back into playing small and
Hmm.
relinquishing your soul's sovereignty. That happens again and again. And if you will stick with it and trust yourself, you will be thrust by the spirit of love into a
Yes.
transcendental state where you're still living in this world, but
Hmm.
not of the world, which is interesting because that was a
Yeah.
phrase I grew up
That's a
hearing.
throwback.
But yeah,
But it
throwback
didn't land
Thursday.
back in the day. This is a great way for it to land. I like that analogy. You're really good at these analogies. I'm like,
I've
this
thought about this stuff a lot.
gets to bring it home. That's so true because it can take that incredible force. And sometimes it's that crashing of your whole paradigm of your whole life. For you, it's like, I thought I knew you. For me, it was like, I thought that God was a certain way. I thought that God was the answer, the authority who would tell me how it was. And if I just followed God, then that, I'd make it, that things would be
Right.
right. And no. So anyway, those rocket boosters
Oh
boosted
my
us out
gosh.
to like the real love of God of however you see that. But I'm like,
Yes.
yes, moving on. Okay, so sorry. Back
No,
to
I
we're
love
up
it. I
in
just,
at the
there's so many different
conference.
things that are popping up, and I'm like, yeah. So here's an important thing where you said, I thought I knew God, it was, the spirit said to me, Angel, you have believed in the man-made God.
Right. So many
It's time that you
collective
believe in the
belief.
God who made man.
Mm-hmm.
And I
That's
was like,
interesting.
oh, there's a pivot. Yeah, there's a direct pivot. So even as you're like, ooh, I like all these analogies, that brings up another point. My spiritual communion with the divine is beyond words. So
So
I started to notice the struggle when it was like, how do I share this experience with someone? Or how do I explain to someone? My whole mindset and personality has changed.
mm,
I have to link it to mortal experiences, metaphors, descriptions that I know, like a rocket. It's
yeah.
like a rocket, or like it's like a
For me, I'm like,
waterfall.
waves. That's yeah, I got my things I say.
But the moment you do that, this is what I was shown by spirit. Angel, the moment you speak it to another person, you have just diluted it. You are now
Absolutely.
1 degree separation away from truth. And this was like, oh, because spiritual impressions are for me, they are my commandments. Whatever spirit
I like
speaking
that.
to me, that's the commandment I get to live. I had been raised to try to live all of the commandments that were given to all the people
Right.
throughout
The
all
10, the
dispensations
Bible.
of time, and
Yeah.
trying to do it all at the same time. And spirit was like, Angel, there's only one commandment. It's what I am saying to you in this moment. Can you do one thing?
Now, present
All the
moment. I
pressure
love that.
gone. Of course I can. And then it was like, don't worry so much about how others interpret your experiences. Like you can share it, but just let go. Everything's
Yeah.
going through this filter. And then I realized when I have believed, like you said, I believed in God. Well, every one of us believes in a God that someone else formed for us. They told us the nature of God. They told us what words to use. They told us what God is. And I learned like they had to use words to express. And so, just as when I speak about my spiritual experiences and it is 1 degree off of what truly
Right.
is
You can't convey.
indescribable, I
Mm-hmm.
was able to now give everyone grace, no matter who's written or spoken or told me about the God I need to believe in. It's like, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm just
That
going to
was
go
your
in and say,
experience.
here's what I heard. What more is there? And then I get the download for me. And that began to separate the wheat from the tares, the
Ooh, yeah.
truth from the philosophies of man. And there were so many, so
Mm-hmm.
many. So now that I've found and been collecting friends and I keep meeting them, I'm like, you're like a conscious soul sibling. Let's have
Yes.
a
I
reunion.
love
I
that.
want to have a
I love.
conscious
Mm-hmm.
soul sibling family reunion where we can all just come and be free to be ourselves. I don't have to be put in the box of
Yes.
like, oh, you got to act like this because you're the
Mm.
fourth child of 6 kids and we always expect you to show up in the same personality that you were as a kid. Or Aunt so and so thinks that, you haven't evolved since
They
the
still
last
call
10
you that
years.
nickname,
Yeah, they still, yeah.
You still playing that sport you loved when you were 10?
So I
No.
began to fantasize about a soul sibling family reunion where everyone could show up and I could just be like, Holly, what version of you is here today?
Right.
Let me see it and love it and celebrate it. And Yin on Fire was born. It's a 4 day, 3 night festival in Cedar City, Utah, coming September 14th through the 17th. We're just weeks away, and it is time to get your tickets. The
Yes.
opportunity is to come and immerse yourself for that many days and nights in an environment where teaching all of these different concepts, over 100 presenters are going to give classes, interactive experiential
Mhm.
workshops,
Me too.
huge
I'll be the
huge
teaching.
groups. Yeah, Ollie's going to be teaching and leading ecstatic dance.
Mhm.
Dance, let me just touch on this. This is how every single topic is transformative. Most people have fears and insecurities around dance because we were raised
Yes.
to go to a dance
And
class or to
shame
learn
your
these moves.
body. Yeah.
And you have to learn these moves, and here's how you do it right. Dance is a
Mm.
great metaphor for the whole transcendent
For
experience. It's like
life. Yeah.
the world tells us, here's how you do it right. This is what
Here's
the
the
move looks
moves.
like.
Here's what you
Here's the
wear.
beat. Here's
Yeah.
the outfit you have to wear. Here's the line you have to stand in. And so a lot of people are like, oh, it's too much pressure. I can't do it. And so they don't dance,
Mm-hmm.
especially men. But women
Mm-hmm.
get shut
Mm-hmm.
down. Women tell me all the time they don't feel comfortable moving their hips and they don't want to be erotic. And like their souls want to dance, but they're afraid to
Yeah.
express themselves. Now they thought the concept of ecstatic dance is to let go of all of what the world
Yes.
wants and for you to tap into how is
Your
my
being.
body feeling this music and how is the music telling my body to move. Let me play with that. Let me see how
Yep.
it
Just
feels to
play.
move in the rhythm and to play in the notes, the sensations it's causing in my body. Let me be free to become one with the sound, one with my body,
I
one with
love
the way
that.
emotion comes through. Music moves the energy of emotion
It
through our
does.
body. Let me feel everything I'm feeling and let me love myself
Kind
through
of,
this process.
yeah,
And
like
you don't have
wiggle
to
it
look like
out.
anybody around
No,
you.
it could be like, it could be however, just
Yeah.
letting that move through you instead of keeping it tucked in and shaming bad wrong. Like, so not only is there the ecstatic dance there, I feel like the whole event is part of that concept of like go in and then express. Like, don't let things
Yes.
clog in there.
Mhm.
Find yourself, go back to your inner authority, and then let that come out. Let your actions come from that. Let your words come from that. Let your future come from that. Be in the now with you.
Yes.
Check in. I'm
You
like, I
will
love
be
it.
surprised. You will be surprised at who and what you really are.
Mm.
So the modalities we're sharing and teaching are going to give people the experience to discover who they are when they're not trying to live up to external expectations, programming. And when you see and feel who you are and you start to say what you want to say, go where you want to go,
Yes.
be who you want to be, you can't help but love that version of you. The
It's
version of
joy.
us that we shame and judge and shut down is the one that's always comparing and competing with
Hmm.
those expectations. But when you start to live this heart and soul centered life, this is who I am. This is what I want to say. This is where I want to be today. This is what's true for me. You are loving bigger and deeper than you ever have. And all I can
Yes.
say is there's like nothing shadowing your worth. You realize I'm a divinely designed being, and I like me. I like this version of me. And
That's a good place to be.
that's the climax of what
Right?
we're talking about here.
I know it's not out there. I had an idea that it was, to be frank, to get married in the temple. I thought that was like the culmination of my existence. And yeah, I'm going to have kids and so forth. And once I did it, I was like, I don't feel like, I don't feel this joy and ecstasy and like great and bliss and like, okay, well, check the box, but where'd that get me? When we return home to ourselves, when we go inward and upward, that's so much more that bliss, that connection. And it's not necessarily like a one-time come to it achievement in life. It's like come and then flow and then come and then the next level. And
Yes.
it's beautiful. And I love that you put together this family reunion. You called it that. When you birthed it out in front of us, I loved
Yes.
it that day. I was just like, are they for real? And you guys are like, what do you guys think? I'm like, sign me up. How do I
Yes.
I want to be there? Like, what can I
Yeah.
do? And sure enough, I
How can
like
I be
forced my
involved?
way in and it was
And
like,
we're so excited to have your energy on
I'm
stage. And
excited.
I just want to wrap up with this. I would just invite any listener, if you've heard about Yin on Fire or not, to go to yinonfire.com,
I'll put a
click on
link in
the
the
tab
notes.
that says plan and prepare at the top, and just read. Then it's scheduled 2023. Just go look at the events. And as you
Insane
look at
amount of
them,
stuff.
check in and say, does this call to me or not? Is this a soul's yes or a soul's no? Because
Mm,
every time I read the lineup, I get giddy. I just think,
right?
I don't want to be anywhere else on the earth on those days.
Yeah. Ooh, I want to be right there too. I'm
I want to
excited.
be
I'm
right
gonna be
there.
camping. I'm gonna be dancing.
Yes.
It's gonna be so good. So I'm so excited that you came on to talk about it because again, you're like birthed it right there and you put it together and come to fruition. You get stuff done. I can't wait for people to hear more about you and your retreats and like join into your world. How can people look for you specifically? And also, when can we expect your book?
The book will be out and the first copies will be sold at Yin on Fire on September 14th, and
Yeah.
then it will be available on Amazon after that.
Awesome.
Soul-U-Lar Evolution by Angel Lynn. Look me up by that name, Lyn. And how can they find me? They can come to Yin on Fire and find
That's
me.
right. I like it. I like it.
And my email is angel@yinonfire.com. They could reach out to me there or find me on Facebook under Angel Lynn and Instagram under Soul-U-Lar Evolution. So I'd love to have people reach out and become part of this connected tribe. It is my goal, my mission, my love to bring people into this family of love and to
Yeah.
just share conscious expansion together to celebrate our mortal existence and beyond.
Mhm.
Just to live in life is an adventure and it's joyful. And I love journeying with people. I love helping people process and see their experience from a hopeful, beautiful, trusting themselves angle and not from victim energy and depression and anxiety and
Mm,
feeling like
those are heavy.
judgment, just feeling
Yeah.
feeling that through the lens of judgment. So thank you for having me on. It's been great to talk to you and see
Of
you again.
course. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the love that you shared, the words that you spoke. And I mean, sometimes it's hard. We take the profound and we kind of make it significant, like taking those experience, like you said, and using words to describe them. But that's how we can kind of share and get people to know,
Mm-hmm.
like, here's what's available. And I can't quite give you all the words, but like go experience it for yourself. And I think Yin on Fire is a perfect way to do that. Your book is a perfect way to get into that too. I'm so excited for your memoirs. Like you're just such a good storyteller as well. And I know there's more goodies and treats in there. All right, with that, we're gonna go ahead and end. I'll have all the links in the show notes. And remember, listeners to and watchers, to love yourself forward, backward, inside and out, because you are the unfolding of the universe. Thank you.